Hi guys, Philip J. Watt from the Conscious Society YouTube channel. Now, this is a really simple, direct message to charities. They have all got it wrong. They are all focusing on the wrong thing. What they are doing is asking money from the people, from your lower class, your middle class, your upper class, and maybe even a little bit from the 0.1%. But the model is incorrect in how they're trying to achieve their goal. What charities really want is the funding to provide the essential social services that our local, national, and global communities need. If they all collected together, if every single charity focused on the right problem and the right solution, then there would be immediate worldwide impacts that would change the societal landscape of humanity forever. All they have to do is understand something very simple, and that is that the way money is created in our society has been taken over by a monopoly, a global banking cartel, and stolen from the hands of the people. We need a public mechanism. We need a public operation to control money and how it is created and used and distributed throughout society. That public mechanism is a public central bank. We now have private-owned central banks, private-owned banks. Private banks create money out of nothing. They punch numbers into computers, and then suddenly new money is created in society, and basically all that money is debt because there needs to be interest paid on that money. Now, if we had a public or state-owned central bank, a local bank, a local central bank, a state central bank, a national central bank, then that money, that profit, all that profits, insane amounts of money that they create through that process can be publicly owned by the community. And then it is recycled, therefore, according to the community needs. Infrastructure, social services, lower taxes. There's a whole gamut of areas that society can spend their money in a way that is for the people. It is created by the people, for the people. And charities, what they're doing is they're perpetuating a system where these private banks, these private families get all the profits from the way that money is created in society. It makes no sense. It is insanity. It is beneath humanity for us to continue to allow this any further. And so I'm challenging every single charity out there, from the worker all the way through to middle management and upper management and CEOs, that you are asking the wrong people. And my challenge is that you should all coordinate together to actually bring in a fairer system, a system that actually works for the people. It is a simple way to mitigate the socio-economic problems that permeate our society: poverty, homelessness, malnutrition, just terrible food systems, absolutely ridiculous ways of managing energy in our society, and how people aren't connected to some of those basic fundamentals that we all deserve, we all have a right to. Now, I implore you to watch this video from a 12-year-old girl who spoke at a public banking institute conference in Canada, and this is directly related to how Canadian system works, but it is also entirely applicable to every country: Australia, the US, the UK, the strong majority of countries, including Europe, the ECB, around the world. And if we coordinated as a collective to get this single issue sorted very, very quickly, like they have already done in North Dakota. North Dakota have had a public central bank since 1919 from memory. And they have proven conclusively how they can weather global financial crises with ease. And they are more profitable and they are more suited to the community, including providing more jobs. They've got a lesser unemployment rate than the rest of the US. So there is clear data, statistics, evidence which shows how this model works. And if we don't do this, if we continue to allow this shadow elite, this shadow banking cartel that controls all of our affairs through how they determine how money is sorted, including how it is funded into political campaigns, which is a part reason as to why they very easily achieve policy initiatives that they want through this corporate lobbyist mechanism that makes up this fraudulent system where private money influences politics, both at a national scale and a geopolitical scale as well. So watch this 12-year-old explain it in simple terms. What is the problem and what is the solution? And I ask every charity to take this serious, because we are relying on you to provide the social service that we need to wake up the people, to wake up society, to get them educated as to why this needs to be the fundamental, most prioritized issue out of all of the social problems that we continue to combat and not actually have some serious resolution to.
Have you ever wondered why Canada is in debt? Have you ever wondered why the government forces Canadians to pay so many taxes? Have you ever wondered why the bankers from the largest private banks are becoming wealthier and the rest of us are not? Have you ever wondered why the gross national debt is over $800 billion? Or why we are spending $160 million a day on the interest of the national debt? That's $60 billion a year. Have you ever wondered who receives the $60 billion? What I have discovered is the banks and the government have colluded to financially enslave the people of Canada. I will share with you 3 important points of reference, which will hopefully spark enough interest and concern for you to continue the research on your own and to engage your government to stop this criminal act against the people of Canada. First, we will briefly examine the Bank of Canada. Second, we will see how our banking system works today. And lastly, I will offer a viable solution that we can petition our government to implement. A very little known figure in Canadian history is J.L. Gradon McGeer. He was a lawyer, member of Parliament, and mayor of Vancouver. His contribution to Canada is probably the greatest in our history. He championed the creation of the National Bank of Canada, whose sole purpose is to create and manage Canada's money. It was formed on July 3, 1934, and owned by all Canadians. Until the 1970s, because of the Bank of Canada, Canada's national debt was held at a constant, manageable level, until the government decided to implement what we now have as our modern-day banking system that is robbing the Canadian people. So how are they robbing us? Allow me to explain how our private banks and government work today. First, the Canadian government borrows money from the private banks. They then lend the debt-based money to Canada with compounded interest. The government then continues to increase taxation of Canadians year after year in order to pay back the interest on the exponentially growing national debt. What results is inflation, less real money for Canadians to spend into our economy, and the real money being used to pad the pockets of the banks. Also, the government gave the banks the ability to loan out money that doesn't exist in the form of loans. When a bank gives you a mortgage, which literally means a death pledge, or a loan, they don't actually give you money. They click a key on a computer and generate the fake money out of thin air. They don't actually have it in their bank vaults. Presently, the banks only have $4 billion on reserve, but they have loaned out over $1.5 trillion. To quote Graham Towers, each and every time a bank makes a loan, a new bank credit is created. New deposits, brand new money. Broadly speaking, all new money comes out of a bank in the form of loans. As loans are debt, then under the present system, all money is debt. What I find interesting is even Jesus in Matthew 21 drove out the money changers in the temple because they were manipulating the currency to steal money from the people. The private banks are just like the money changers in Matthew 21. They are defrauding and robbing the people of Canada, thus their freedom, and they need to be stopped. How should the banking system work? In an infamous interview, Mr. McGeer asked Mr. Towers, "Can you tell me why a government with power to create money should give that power away to a private monopoly and then borrow that which Parliament can create itself back at interest to the point of national bankruptcy?" Mr. Towers replied, "If Parliament wants to change the form of operating the banking system, then certainly that is within the powers of Parliament. In other words, if the Canadian government needs money, they can borrow it directly from the Bank of Canada. The people would then pay fair taxes to repay the Bank of Canada. This tax money would in turn get injected back into our economic infrastructure and the debt would be wiped out. Canadians would again prosper with real money as the foundation of our economic structure and not debt money. Regarding the debt money owed to the private banks, such as the Royal Bank, we would simply have the Bank of Canada print the money owing, hand it over to the private banks, and then clear the debt with the Bank of Canada. And yes, we have the power and lawful right to do so." In conclusion, it has become painfully obvious, even for me, a 12-year-old Canadian, that we are being defrauded and robbed by the banking system and a complicit government. What will we do to stop this crime? What will we do to ensure that the next generation will live free and clear of the debt-based economy that enslaves them to the banks? Margaret Mead said the following, and I hope that all of you remember this. "Never doubt that a small group of people can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has." Thank you.
Okay, so what are we going to do about this crime? Does it really need to take a small group of people? Can't it take a large group of charities to work this issue out? Surely you heard what that meant. It meant that we, the people, are borrowing money off private people, private families who create that money out of nothing and then paying it back to them with interest. Why? What is the sanity? Where is the sanity in borrowing money that was created out of nothing off somebody else? Why don't we just do that ourselves, create the money out of thin air, use it according to economic principles and ebbs and flows, and circulate it and distribute it and target it into society in a way that is actually beneficial, productive, functional for the people, and not let these corporate monopolies, this banking monopoly, this elite monopoly, this shadow monopoly, make it clear in your heads, the monopoly, the thing that controls the world, the system that permeates everything, our media, our politicians, our governments, our food systems, our energy, our finance sectors, the whole lot. That monopoly is based on this banking system. So therefore, remove that control mechanism, remove that power that they've got to continue this insane system, and we can start looking after ourselves and actually start fixing this poverty situation, this homelessness situation, this problem with drugs and mental illness and the whole array. Every charity needs to understand that they are part of this problem because they are not focusing on the right solution. This is the solution we have right here, right now. This is our short-term thing that we could do today. This is our opportunity. Now, we could wait until some sort of crisis to send us into a new system if we so want. The 2008 global financial crisis is nowhere near over. If you understand the real data that's going on in terms of our global economic structure and health, then you would understand we are not in a great place because of all this insane money printing that is propping up this failing economic structure, central banking structure, banking sector. It's an absolute cancer on society. It's a cancer on our future. And if we don't get rid of this now, or we can institute these public banks in local, state, national contexts, if we don't do something now, then where does this lead us? Think about it. Think about what a monopoly of this size can potentially provide for themselves compared to humanity itself. We are the people. We are the power. There is no one size fits all for any community. And we need to take that power back and start taking care of ourselves, taking care of each other, taking care of our public operations, our communities, our local economics, our local connections. Every charity in the world is doing it wrong. And the sooner they educate themselves on this issue, the sooner they can help provide a mass consciousness awakening around this problem as well, because our media will not do it. It's going to take us to actually transcend the matrix media tentacles that have lodged in our brains, our collective brains, and actually wake ourselves up to the fact that we can change the landscape of our societies in ways that we have never dreamed of, in ways that are based in peace, based in truth, based in justice, and based in compassion. This is your calling. Every single one of you who watches this video needs to share it, because every single one of us needs to understand it. Peace.